works good. All right, everybody, let's get this show on the road. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Winnetka Village Council regular meeting for October 1st, 2024. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Ask everybody to mute your cell phones and other electronic devices, and I'll ask the village manager to do a roll call for attendance.
Thank you. Trustee Dahlman?
Here.
Trustee Dearborn? Here. Trustee Handler?
Here.
Trustee Orsic?
Here.
Trustee Apatoff? Here. President Rintz?
Here. Item 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance, and Trustee Orsic will lead us this evening. Okay, next item is quorum check.
Thank you. 2 remaining meetings in October, and then November 1st is the all-day budget review. Are there any conflicts? November 1st is all-day budget? Yes. It's a Friday. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let me know if there's any conflicts. Thank you.
Great. All right, item 4 is public comment. This is the time of the evening when anybody who wishes to, I got a list here, can come up and address the village council on any item that you might wish to speak to us on that is not in the agenda. So if you're here for the Green Bay Trail, wait for that. Anything else, you can come on up now. And the first speaker is?
Member of the public.
Ted.
Hi. So let's see where we go today. So I came because recently the Athenian Oath, which I think is actually should be more correctly titled the Ephebic Oath, came up in conversation. And it's something I was intrigued by. The copy that you have there is a version that was written in about the 4th or 5th century AD. But the oath actually dates back to like 400 BC. And the first recorded stele that it was found on, you know, has some differences. And it's interesting because while they are minor, they do speak to some things that should be considered. Like, for example, it says there that you'll fight for ideals and sacred things of the city. But, you know, the oath, when it was originally came out, talked about that you would fight in defense of things both sacred and profane. And that, of course, that means, you know, both the important things, the high things, but also the mundane things, the things that, you know, may fly under the radar. And I feel that over the last 15 years that I've lived here, that this village has done a terrible job in holding to those ideals, okay? So it seems to me that the thing that the village cares about most is how it can maximize the benefit to a select group of private individuals within the village. And those individuals appear to have a better channel to communication with the village, and they appear to get preferential treatment by the village. And that flies in the face of this Ephebic Oath. You know, we are not an Athenian democracy, right? If we were, then this whole room would be talking about every topic that came up. And we don't do that. We are much more like, I'm going to say autocracy, but that might be a little bit tough. But certainly, this council does things to hide what it makes decisions. It does things to obfuscate. And it does not really work to pull in the people. And it still doesn't do things that it knows it should. We have the EFC here today, the Green Bay Trail. Ooh, let's hope $20,000 won't break the village. But the village still supports solar energy less than the rest of the state. You still don't do net metering to encourage solar production. You know, it's so hard. The EFC could do so much for the village. You know, we're now still paying to throw out recycling when it is clear that recycling is a scam propagated by the petroleum industry. But I, of course, because I'm not one of the important people, I have to subsidize those who want to feel better when they buy and buy and buy and waste and waste and waste plastic. It's a shame that this oath isn't considered more thoughtfully.
Okay, Brian Scullion.
Hi, good evening. Nice to talk to you all. Appreciate you taking the time to hear from the public and also for all you do for the village. I know it's a tough job, a lot of work, and I'm glad you're taking it on. Wanted to touch base with you on on two things. One, it's about the power contract with the downstate Prairie State plant, which is coal run and contributes to coal being a disproportionate part of our electric supply here in Winnetka. That's a done deal. That's not why I'm here, but is the cause of my request. And my request is, it's my limited understanding that the village is being asked to renew its commitment to that facility as a major source of power for the village. Now, 6 years prior to the contractually agreed upon date of 2030. So 6 years prior to when we have to commit, we're being asked to commit for another 10 to 20 years, I think it is, of coal-generated power. My request to the council is, I think we need to study this more closely. I'm not the only one, and certainly the circles I travel aren't the only people thinking this. Naperville is also taking a harder look at the Prairie State plant. Geneva's taking a harder look at this. And I think Winnetka also, as one of the municipalities working with IMEA, should also take a closer look at that. We have a great benefit here in Winnetka, and even just in the audience here, bumping into a couple of people, we have a lot of expertise here, people working in renewables and alternative energy sources. A lot of this wasn't a reality, or at least a feasible alternative to coal when that contract was signed. But things are very different now and are likely to continue to evolve over the next several years. And so I guess in summary, I would say it just doesn't seem prudent that we would commit now to a source of energy that has a lot of questions, is ultimately destined probably to be phased out, and that we should at a minimum study it more closely as what our alternatives would be, and probably wait until our contractually agreed upon date of 2030 before we commit to Prairie State. So thank you.
Thank you. Tom Barron.
I was just going to use that, this spot as a placeholder for the Green Bay Trail, but since I reserved the spot, I'll say just a couple words about the energy situation that Brian raised. I have a number of businesses that I work with. A couple are in the environmental and energy space, and when you think about 6 years to make that commitment, make that ultimate judgment, the rapid change in technology has been phenomenal over the last 6 years relative to battery technology, solar technology, where 6 years ago, we didn't think that solar panels were going to be 92% cheaper today than they were 6 years ago. The technology in battery storage is accelerating at almost a similar rate. So I just want to second what Brian has to say about making that commitment or not making that commitment now, because in 6 years, there are things that we cannot foresee today that will be a much better alternative to burning coal and having 80% of our electricity in the village sourced from a coal plant. So, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Katie Hansen and Katie Kastman.
Hi. Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm Katie Hansen. Thanks for having us tonight.
Katie Kastman, before we get.
We both live in Winnetka on Old Green Bay Road. We both love living in Winnetka, and we're thrilled to move up here. Just yesterday, we actually received a letter in the mail from the village of Glencoe stating that they were in one of the final steps of changing our address from Winnetka to Glencoe. Needless to say, we were shocked. We found some more data on this as we kept going, and we saw that a preliminary decision was made in June of 2022, where the village of Winnetka agreed that our addresses should have Glencoe mailing addresses. So ultimately, we're just first concerned, disappointed we didn't hear anything sooner, and honestly, Katie will share some more data, but we're pretty upset.
Out of those homes, there are 131 of us that are in this bubble. 74 of us are Winnetka schools, and of that, 2/3 of our local taxes go to Winnetka schools and parks, and only 1/3 of that goes to Glencoe, the village, and the library. 57 of those homes go to Glencoe schools, and the way that the village of Glencoe has presented it to us, which was a shock to all of us yesterday, was that this is an all or nothing plan. Whereas just from what we know from talking to people, it's really that Mary Street that they have a Winnetka address but go to Glencoe schools. And so if they get granted that, we are in turn getting what they don't want. And all of us want to be Winnetka residents. It's why we bought our homes here. And it also impacts all of our property values. I think everyone in this room can agree there's a difference between Winnetka and Glencoe. And none of our neighbors would have purchased our homes if they had been a Glencoe address. So we all just feel like the rug is kind of being taken out from under us, and there's a really strong group who's been working on this for 2 years with Glencoe that we did not know. So we were really, confused, disheartened to see if the village did agree upon this, and we had no knowledge or stake in the matter. So we are really looking to you guys for support and what this path looks like forward. And we want the people of Mary Street to be happy. They claim it's confusing for Amazon. We don't have that problem. We really want to be in Winnetka. So I guess we've never done this. So if you let us know next steps or whatever we can do to work together to ensure that we all stay in Winnetka.
Sure, thank you.
Sure. Well, thank you for bringing it to our attention. The Village of Glencoe has not communicated, at least to my office, the village manager's office, that these discussions were occurring. And I don't recall a 2022 decision framework. It doesn't.
I can give you a copy of the slides.
No,
It's
I would like to.
Yeah.
What I'm getting to is if you could please leave your names and addresses and phone numbers with Kristen Kazinas. Our community development staff and I will be in touch with you to work this out.
We have a whole group ready to fight.
Okay, understood. But yeah, this is one that.
Received a couple emails today, too.
Okay, good. Well, we were prepared.
This is relatively new to us because Glencoe hasn't communicated to us about this endeavor. So, but we have contacts there and we'll find out.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
I'd be upset, too. All right, did anybody not sign in but would like to address us on items that are not related to Green Bay? Okay. Seeing none, I will close public comment, and we'll move forward. Item 5 is reports, trustee reports. We'll start down there with Tina.
No report.
No report?
Kim?
No report.
Bridget?
No report.
Rob?
No report today.
Village attorney? No report. Village manager?
I have a couple reports. There's been comments this evening and comments before about IMEA and the village's contract, and I know President Rintz and the council has echoed that this is not something that the village is going to take quickly. We're going to take our time. Staff is following up from a study session on this matter from earlier this year, but I would recommend that those of you who haven't had a chance to review that study session where IMEA was present and the contract terms were laid out, that is a really good primer to understand the initial framework. We also are understanding the October 22nd forum will be going forward. The village is still working out its presentation and to what extent we are listeners or participants. But this is going to entail a lot of analysis, I would assume a lot of community engagement, and the village will take our time to get it right. So that's one comment there. The second one is related to grant funding. And the council knows that we have been aggressively pursuing grants, and we have been applying for FEMA flooding mitigation grants. And the first two that we applied to, we were denied. But just this past week, we were informed that out of 424 applicants, the village was selected as a subgroup of 197 for a total grant of $21,224,000 for the Western Conveyance Stormwater Project. This goes a 70% match of the $30 million left to build the conveyance system. Now, this is, we believe, near final because of the amount of effort and detail that we put into the grant application. It had engineering pretty far along, so we believe we'll get through these final steps. It's going to take some time, well into next year. But we feel pretty good that these grant dollars will come.
That's great.
Okay, we can all go home now. Oh, thanks, Rob. That was great news. And they have been working really hard. I mean, ever since I've been here, Rob and his staff have been tireless in pursuing grants, and I've been tireless in sending them to them. But now it's starting to pay off. You know, we're starting to learn the game. And, you know, if this $20 million grant comes through, I mean, that is just phenomenal. That basically finishes the entire west side, the main project, and probably leaves a little in the till for what we're going to be looking at on the east side.
Yeah, we'll get through that. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Tim Sloth, Finance Director, and Jim Bernal for their work on this, and our consultant team, Strand, who provided a lot of the technical detail. It was a great team effort.
That's fantastic news.
Thanks. And lastly, Village President, I have no report. Okay, item 6 tonight is presentations, and our presentation this evening is a review of the Green Bay Trail Restoration Initiative, and this is the EFC. Tonight, Friends of the Green Bay Trail are here to present the proposed landscape restoration work in an effort to restore, enhance, and maintain the Green Bay Trail. Village Forester Andrew Luck is here to review, and Brian Lammers from Friends is also here. So why don't you guys take it away?
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Andrew Luck, Village Forester. So a little bit of an overview. So starting in 2022, a group of volunteers, many of whom are here this evening, led by the Friends of the Green Bay Trail, began a cleanup project along the trail, the section in Winnetka. So it's mainly been Winnetka residents, but a few from neighboring communities as well. And so they're working on this cleanup project to remove dead limbs and fallen debris and garbage along the east side of the trail in the wooded area. And then forestry engineering has worked with a contractor to then assist with getting rid of a lot of that debris. But they started up at Tower and worked south, and I think they're down close to Elm Street now on this work that they've been doing. And along the way, they've improved the aesthetics and the habitat along the trail, habitat for both wildlife and native beneficial plants. So in addition to the work that they've completed, now they're proposing to perform landscape restoration along a section of the trail as a pilot project. And this pilot project would help to further restore and enhance the natural beauty of the trail. The group worked with village staff, including myself and others in engineering, and the Environmental and Forestry Commission on the plan, which proposes to remove invasive species, install native plants, and perform other landscaping improvements. The group also worked with the Lakota Group, a design and landscape architecture firm, who volunteered to develop the proposed plan and a preliminary cost estimate for the project. The proposed project, which a representative from the Friends of the Green Bay Trail will go over, is located near the Ash Street access point along the east side of the trail. So the plan includes proposed improvements and installation techniques, along with volunteer contributions and requested village funding and staff oversight. The group's representative from the Friends of the Green Bay Trail is here tonight and will present the plan informationally to the council and the greater community. And both he and I will be here to answer any questions throughout or after as well. So they'll also to also talk about the group's long-term commitment to maintain the area as part of restoration and present the timeline for the project. So with that, I'd like to introduce Brian Lamers from the Friends of the Green Bay Trail, who will walk through the proposed project.
Thanks, Andrew. Firstly, I'd like to thank the council for affording the opportunity to come in here and actually present this. Before I get into the slides too deeply, I'd like to say a few remarks about this proposal. I'll talk about a lot of things that we can do. But really, we come here hat in hand. We are hoping to be granted the ability to move forward and do this small section of restoration. But at all times, keep in the back of your mind that it's the village that runs the show. You provide direction, you make the decisions. We are here to help. And so I just don't want you to be thinking anything contrary as I go through the slides. Okay, what I'm going to talk about basically is the scope, what's to be done, the timing, long-term stewardship, costs and needs from the village. And basically what we're trying to do here is to move from a situation where there's a lot of invasives that have choked out other plants and left barren soil underneath to a condition where we save the canopy. We have multiple layers of plants and especially the understory plants and screening that we will be removing in the process. So in a nutshell, that's what we're doing. I would like to make it really clear the section of property that we're doing this on, and maybe for you with the monitor, I'll try to use the cursor here. There it is. Okay, you're probably very familiar with town, of course. Ash Street here, Maple here, and there's an access to Green Bay Trail right here. There's some green space, pretty much turf for maybe 15 yards, and then the next 35 yards on the east side of the trail, this is the area that we're talking about. In this area, and you can see a picture of it here. Notice the large circles. Those are the canopy that pretty much exists today. There's plans to have Andrew select and remove a few trees that will probably need to be removed, but you should notice that there are bushes planted along that east edge there. Those are the smaller circles. 11 bushes are planted at this point, and then more than 300 plugs would be planted. A plug is something planted in a tray that's about 2 inches by 5 inches deep that we put seeds in, or we can buy plugs, and those are ready for planting. As Andrew mentioned, here's a picture on the lower left of how we've been clearing out garbage and dead wood and putting in piles for removal. And so that's what that looks like. And basically, the first task is to clear invasive plants and garbage and dead wood, then have the removal by village contractors as it's being done today. The soil is to be left undisturbed. This is contrary to the original Lakota plan. The reason for that is that if you churn up the soil, you'll bring weed seeds to the surface and they will sprout along with the plants that you want to sprout. So we want to leave it as undisturbed as possible. And actually that saves a lot of money. The village would purchase some shrubs, plugs, and seed mixes, but Friends of the Green Bay Trail would try to reduce the amount of that as much as we can. And I'll get into some details on that in a few minutes. Basically, Friends of Green Bay Trail are proposing to plant and provide labor, provide watering services during that first growing season. It's imperative that we be able to water frequently to get these plants that we've spent time and effort on going. And then there's a long-term stewardship, which I'll talk about more here in a minute. To get into some details, let's take a look at the timeline. Here we are at the beginning of October. We're proposing that we'd be allowed to start cleaning and clearing, getting rid of that buckthorn deadwood and any garbage in this area. November is a good time for Andrew and his crew to remove a few trees that they want to have out of that area. And then in December is something you're probably not too aware of, but the Friends of the Green Bay Trail are in the middle of collecting a lot of seeds, and then we dry them and then we clean them. And these seeds of certain kinds of plants will be ready in December. We aim for just before the first significant snowfall, and we lay those out in the areas we want them to grow. And so the cover or blanketing is actually the first major snowfall, and we do that typically. Then in January, we'll be planting some other seeds that we've collected in plug trays. This last year, we planted 4,750 plug trays, and those were planted along the Green Bay Trail, just to give you an idea of how much we might be able to contribute to reducing the cost of buying plugs. And also, that would be the right time to be sourcing some plant material. I'd like to emphasize that through my talk here, most of what Friends of the Green Bay Trail contribute or are proposing to contribute is labor effort. And most of what we're asking of the village is materials to be paid for. And so you can see that when I get to the cost slide, that'll come out clearly. In January, February, we'll be watering these sprouts. We have them in greenhouses. They're up at Take-Off Center. And there's a picture of the plugs in that lower left-hand corner on your screens. That's what these trays look like a couple of months after we've been watering them. And then come March, we can plant dormant shrubs after the main thaw. And then April, we wait for April till the last hard frost happens because these plugs are more tender than our dormant bushes. And May, we try to finish planting. We put blankets over areas that we want to protect from moisture loss. And then by summertime, we're looking at more maintenance activities to make sure that all of our plants and seeds that have sprouted keep persisting, keep growing. So there's a quick view of timing. Overall responsibilities for Friends of the Green Bay Trail. In the first year, of course, watering is imperative. You need to be able to water these things. We'll be filling in gaps with plugs, and we'll be weeding. We'll be monitoring with the village and our ecologist on a monthly basis to make sure that things are coming along very well and everybody's coordinated between the village and Friends of the Green Bay Trail and the ecologist. In year 2, we water less, mainly during dry periods. We'll be doing a lot of weeding. We'll still be monitoring with the village and the ecologist, and we'll be making adjustments to fill and thin areas that are too robust, that we want to give other plants the ability to thrive. And we'll be bringing seeds, of course, and plugs to any increase. In year 3, again, we continue monitoring with the village and ecologist. We do more weeding. We continually adjust to keep the balance of competition among plants. Some grow much more quickly and earlier than others, and so we keep things in a balance. And we start collecting seeds already in year 3. And so we have an ongoing process of collecting seeds and drying them and cleaning them and getting them ready for planting in any areas that need it. You're probably most interested in the costs. This is quite a summary of it. The initial cost estimate was $47,000, and on the left side you see that we've got $2,400 for tree removal. We may not spend quite that much. Perennial plugs and seeds and blankets, those are probably pretty accurate costs, although we'll probably be putting plugs in and doing some seeding that might reduce that. Also, shrubs for screening, that's a pretty accurate cost. Erosion control blankets, we've got quite a savings in that area, down to $250. $2,500 for installation of a spigot. That may not be that high if we can go with an attachment that we're checking into, attachment for that drinking fountain that's there at Ash Street access. Yet to be determined all the details on that, but last one is grubbing and treating. We have to treat these invasives as you cut them. You have to paint the little stubs with cambium layers with root killer, basically. It's not a wide broadcast spraying. And then grubbing, there may be some areas where we actually want to pull things out, although I mentioned earlier we want to minimize the soil that we lift up from underneath. So we anticipate doing very little of that. Total paid by the village, we're looking at a little over $13,000. So we may be able to do a little better than that, but that's a good number for now. versus the $47,000. And the rest of the work will be done by Friends of the Green Bay Trail, labor, volunteers, et cetera, and our own plantings. So that's the cost plan. We need a couple things from the village. We're here today to seek your approval to be able to move forward and do this little area. It'd be a demonstration of what it could be for people to see and comment on. And then most importantly, the water source. We need some way to be able to water these things. And so there we're begging. And then ongoing coordination, we'd expect input from the village along the way, coordinating with Andrew and others and staff, and wanting to stay in sync. And again, the village is the boss here. We're here to help. And that's the conclusion of what I have to say. So Andrew and I and anybody else in the crowd that wants to speak or answer questions are welcome.
Any questions from council? Jump on.
Go ahead, Kim.
Go ahead.
I guess for now, first of all, what a great plan, and the amount of time that clearly the whole group is putting toward this is truly extraordinary for this lovely asset we have here in town. But my one question is I see that the first couple of years, obviously you're putting a water source in and we'll be watering to get everything up and running. Are the plants that are being chosen the ones that would thrive with, let's say, just normal rainfall in
Yeah,
our area?
absolutely. Absolutely. They'd be natives to this area, and ones that we have some experience with planting in the past that do very well. And so we've actually struck off of our list several kinds of plants that, for example, there's viburnums that beetles attack in this area, so we're not planting any of those.
Okay.
But the aim is to have a pretty much self-sufficient area with a minimal attention ongoing through the years. And as written in the paper that you've probably received, you received and probably had time to read, I hope, is that we're looking for no end to our stewardship for this area. So for the rest of the decade and beyond.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, thank you for getting from the first budget to the second budget. You watch your dollars as this whole council hopes to watch the dollars for the village, and it's incredibly appreciated because that doesn't often happen. So thank you. A couple things. You said you've already planted 4,000. How's that going? Is it working the way you think it's working?
Yes, actually, it is. We've planted 4,000 plus 4,750 plugs that we
Right.
put in from seed, but not all of them came to fruition, but well over 4,000 did, and we planted them this summer and spring. And so those are all in the ground, and the plugs are actually quite successful. We have less success with the actual seeding on the ground. So that's why you want to do some plugs also, and you mix the two together. So you have plugs covering the area that you want covered, and we would certainly do this here, but we'd also have all these other seeds. And so we'd look forward to some of those, or enough of those to fill in.
What year was the Green Bay Trail put in? What year was the Green Bay Trail put in? Do you know?
Oh, as far as the paving,
Just
or the start to renovation
just the
portions?
the initial.
About 15 years ago, just the initial start of renovating portions of it happened. I wasn't in the area then, so I defer to better expertise if anybody wants to chime in.
That's okay. I was just
That's right.
curious the actual date when it was first put in.
Restoration?
No, the first installment when it was first laid down. How many years ago was that?
Oh, I
Can't
don't know.
remember. It's been a long time. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
1960, I heard over here somewhere.
That sounds about right. Okay. Because I grew up right alongside the tracks on Scott Road and
Okay.
the house right on the tracks, and
Ah,
I think it's a really well thought out plan, realistic, and I appreciate all the hard work that you guys are putting into it.
thank you.
Thank you for all, is that on? Thank you for all the hard work on this. I was just curious, why only 50 yards?
Because it's really seeking this as a demonstration area, so we can show you all and others, okay, this is what it can be, this is what it can look like, and also getting off on a foot, a good step forward, so that You know, if the village is interested in expansion, of course, we'd be all over that. But, you know, you really have to show a plan and what you can do and how this could move forward. And so in an area that, you know, Andrew's in agreement with for his staff too to work with us on, it's an appropriate amount of length. We've looked at other areas along the trail, possible proposals, but at this time, we're really seeking an approval to do this much. And then we'd be open for any discussions in the future, depending on how you like what we do, what we could do going forward, and welcome any discussions like that. But I think we need to do a small area first. We do have a neighbor, I don't know if they're here tonight, that's adjacent to this property, and the comment that I was given directly was, can you please do more, because I want all my backyard changed to this. And that's, you know, that's positive.
And then, because I think Lakota did a proposed Green Bay plan, does this kind of, which was just a conceptual idea that we've
This
never.
is a piece of that.
Is it? So it marries with that, and this wouldn't, you know, in any way, if that gets adopted at some point, because I don't think we necessarily fully adopted or funded it.
Right.
But I would hate for all the work to be, you know, disturbed.
Yeah.
Is it- so
Yeah, we
I
don't want to be
assume-
in a contrary position to the Lakota, the work
Yeah.
that they've done, but we're really aiming at the vegetative side of things.
Yeah,
no
not the
hardscape
hardscape and the
Go ahead,
other
Ann.
things.
Yeah, I can speak to that. We did take
Yeah.
a close look at the plan and the details of the Lakota plan, and we made sure the area we selected, we were not in conflict with anything, so that anything would need to be torn out in the future if that were implemented, so.
But
Great,
just
that's
to confirm,
great.
we didn't finalize the.
No.
No,
Right,
that's
there
what I
was still a lot
said.
of feedback to that plan, right,
Yeah.
okay.
Right, we talked about the concept, but I would hate, you know, I don't want to get into a situation which we had, well, maybe 8 years ago, when we talked about Dwyer Park renovations, and because the Garden Club had done some things, it limited what the Park District could do, and, you know, you just want to, who knows, to your point, whether that ever comes to fruition, but, you know, you would just obviously want to make sure it's, you know, not in conflict.
There's a long list of follow-up on the Green Bay Trail that we haven't had a chance to get to, but while we were talking about grants, one of the major impacts to the trail is we were awarded congressionally directed spending by Congressman Schneider to build a pretty significant project, total cost of about $1.1 million, but the grant is $887,000 from the federal government. And that's going to, we just got word this week that that one is also going to be in the queue for next year. So that will impact the concept plan that we'll bring to you. So we need to work on refining that, bring it together as a plan, see if it meets muster. And then, of course, a maintenance contract agreement with the Park District needs to be revised as well. So there's a lot of follow-up to do, but staff time has been pretty committed to up to this point.
Another round of applause, another grant.
I usually don't come bringing money, I'm usually asking.
Yeah, you better spread that out, man. You gotta save some.
Can I just, Chris, can I make a couple comments? Just in context here, and I might just lead Brian and Andrew down the road to a couple questions I know the answers of. But first off, I think we all agree here that this is really a terrific public-private initiative. And I know there are at least 6 members of the volunteer chainsaw gang, maybe more than 6, are here tonight, and they were featured in the Winnetka report that came out, arrived at your homes this week. They've really done amazing work, and I think one of the things that strikes me, if you go down the trail after they've hauled out this deadfall, there has been very little maintenance landscaping of the trail. I mean, they could probably do a lot more, and I think, Julian, you might agree with that. But this is just a start of something that could expand into something bigger. I mean, we'll see. You know, the Friends of the Green Bay Trail, they can do fundraising for Winnetka only. I mean, things like that could develop over time. They've spoken with the neighbors in the area, you know, so they knew that neighbor concerns or comments would be important to this group. And the neighbor, as Brian said, was all about this. And so this demonstration zone, you're right, Tina, it's a little itty bitty spot, but it's kind of a nice spot. You know, I think Andrew put the group through the paces, as he should. You and staff put them through the paces to get to this point. They looked hard at the Scott Street area, and for reasons, good reasons, I think, this maybe made more sense. But I don't know, I think this, we've had feedback over time, resident feedback about the trail. I mean, it's clearly one of the great assets that this village is fortunate to have. And it's one that we should be good stewards of. And I can just say for myself that I think this is really a nice start. I think some of us were hoping we'd have this presentation in August and September, but here we are in October, and they can do work in the winter, which is pretty amazing. But I guess I don't have any questions. I just think it's a great project, and I'm thrilled that we're here, and I'm sensing good support. Someone has to agree to spend the money, so.
Namely us.
Does that come on November?
Falls under Rob's.
That's November 1st for the budget?
So we're carrying funds in this year's budget, and we're planning to carry any additional funds into next year as well.
Good.
So it's within our funding capacity to do it.
Okay, why don't I open it up for public comment? Would anybody like to speak on this item? Nobody wants to say anything? Come on up, Mickey. Got this full room and nobody wants to talk. Come on, guys.
Here's one of the volunteers.
We're all friends here, right?
I was just going to say, it's, you generally don't have people talk when everybody's kind of going, hey, this is a great idea. So it's kind of like no controversy. My point is going to be very quick. It's, it was a concept of having done work with volunteers on the Green Bay Trail. I think anyone who goes down there knows it needs a lot of attention. It's a great asset. We're lucky to have it, but it's been ignored for probably as long as it's been there. And trying to do this stuff, the idea of doing a proof of concept, which is what I call this, is to get other people in the village excited about seeing it. Let's show them the possibility of what could happen on the Green Bay Trail, get them excited about it, get to a point where they can see it. And then if you have wide support from people who live in the village, it would certainly help with fundraising. Glencoe has done a hell of a job with this. They've raised a lot of money. If you go north of the Green Bay Trail in Glencoe, it's astonishingly nice. When you come a little south of Scott, not so much so. And there is a lot of work to be done. Don't be fooled by that. But for me, this would be a great start. This is what it could be. It has awesome possibilities to it. Whether you went full bore with Scott's plan for the entire trail, modified or whatever, it would be a huge, huge positive for the village as a whole. Thank you.
Thanks, Mickey. Now that he's broken the ice, anybody else want to talk? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. And we'll bring it back up here for discussion. Anybody have a problem with Rob using his authority to take care of this?
Go for it.
No, I was just going to suggest that how do people get involved? So if somebody's watching this meeting at home, what's the best way to get involved with the Friends of the Green Bay Trail?
So we have with us our development leader, Steve Hewells. You might know him, and he with the help of actually another guy who's here, Scott Scoville's wife, they're very adept at fundraising, and I'm sure that they would like to ask Winnetka residents if they would be interested in contributing to this kind of thing going forward. And so we actually have a team set up to do that sort of thing. For Winnetka, it would be the target for this section of the trail.
Awesome.
Do you have a website, though? Or,
yes.
Okay,
yeah.
And then people can volunteer if you need
Yes, on the
labor?
website, there's a thing to put in your name. And we have volunteer work days, often like 2 Saturdays a month in the mornings, where we welcome volunteers. And we've been expanding the numbers that come out. So it's a good trend. And I think we'd get a lot more potentially if we were given the permission to do this in Winnetka.
very difficult website, gbtrail.org. And it's a damn robust website.
Good, thank you.
For those of you who didn't pick it up at home, that was gbtrail.org.
We also have volunteers from Winnetka who are working with us up in Glencoe now already. So we have a list of people that are already interested and committed. The mothers, it's a mother-daughter kind
Oh,
of.
and the NCL, be an example.
So
Great.
Great. Any closing comments? Bob, good job heading this up. Really appreciate the effort.
I had one comment, which
Sure, go
is,
ahead.
I do think that it's great, and I think it's fabulous you have your volunteers, and I think you can also tap Troop 20 in Winnetka. And I see Eagle projects and service hours and all that stuff. I think that that would be a huge resource and a nice joint effort.
Excellent suggestion, yep.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move it along here. We're actually going to do some business now. Item 7 is establishment of the consent agenda. Does any trustee wish to remove any items on the agenda for a separate vote? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the final form of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
That's a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Now we'll go on to approval of the consent agenda, and I'll ask Rob to read the items on the agenda.
Thank you. Approval of the Village Council minutes for September 3rd, 2024, regular meeting, September 10th, 2024, study session, and September 17th, 2024, regular meeting. Approval of the warrant list dated August 26, 2024 through September 6, 2024, in the amount of $3,020,530.50. Resolution number R72, 2024, appointing a director and alternate directors to the Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County. Resolution number R73, 2024, approving a contract with Seeper Heating and Cooling for rooftop AC unit replacement services. Resolution number R74, 2024, waiving bidding and approving an agreement with Metropolitan Industries Incorporated for the water plant high lift pump controls upgrade. And that's it.
Okay, thanks, Rob. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by omnibus vote?
So moved.
Second.
That's a roll call vote?
Trustee Dahlman?
Yes.
Trustee Orsic?
Yes.
Trustee Handler?
Yes.
Trustee Dearborn? Yes. Trustee Apatow?
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you. Moving forward, ordinances and resolutions, none. Old business, none. New business, none. Appointments, none. Closed session, none. Item 14 is adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
That's a voice. Boy, what a hurry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Can't believe you beat you today.